Hello everyone, in this lecture we're going to expand on what we learned at the pen tool and those external libraries. In the previous lecture we're just going to go ahead and jump into some more advanced things we can do by making a render machine using the pen tool, as we'll continue to do that. So I'll go ahead and go to project on top right. I'm on my stuff folder as usual. Again, I recommend you guys follow along with me, make these projects with me, whether it's online or offline. And of course, as long as you're understanding what I'm doing, of course you can make changes to it as we go. It's just I'm going to go ahead and name this one render machine, and I want to do is actually going to be a pretty simple, it's going to be a powerful engine, but pretty simple code, but I want to walk you through what the code is doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a polygon, which, by the way, polygon is basically a shape, but it's not really confined to a set amount of, edges or points or angles or anything like that. It's pretty much just a shape. The polygon can really be any kind of shape that can fit on a Cartesian system or two-dimensional plane. And really, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make it to where it automatically generates or renders these. And by the way, the term render is basically it's kind of like a computer-aided animation. So an animation is generated by the computer, and the process of generating it is called rendering. Like if you've ever seen the movie Toy Story and it's an animation, uh, that was actually animations generated on a computer, and the process of those frames being generated would have been rendering. And so we're basically going to make our own render machine that renders moving polygons. And I think you'll like it. I think it'll be pretty cool. I'm just going to go ahead and get a black background for some nice contrast here because we're going to be working with a lot of bright and neon colors. I'm just going to go good on black. So I'm just going to go ahead and go there. I'll just go ahead and name my background. There we go. There's pretty much all we need to do for the stage for now. Just go ahead and make some new sprites here. And I'm going to work with 3 points to start. And we can have more in the future, but I'm just going to name this point A. My keyboard is a little bit off. Alright, point A, point B, and lastly point C. And I want to have 3 cursors for now, and the 3 cursors will work together to tell my, I'll just call it paintbrush, I guess. These 3 cursors will work together, or I guess these 3 points will work together as one cursor that tells my paintbrush what to do and where to go. And this will all be using a pen tool, so without getting any further, let's go ahead and actually add the pen tool to our project in the first place. Something like this. Now we have our pen tool right here. And then what we want to do is actually tell these points where to go. So if we want to make a polygon, we're going to need it to be kind of randomized. Let's just go ahead and say when clicked, let's say, what should we do? Let's go turn, and then pick random. So of course a circle is 1 to 360 degrees. So it's really the maximum range we can work with, 1 to 360. And you can't do 0 to 360 because 0 is the same as 360. So I'll just go turn random, 0 to 360. So now it's just turning a random direction. Well, that's great. Now what am I going to do with this? I'm going to go ahead and go, and rather than change X or change Y, I'm going to actually use move steps for once. I'm going to use this function for once. I need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and go move 5 steps, and just going to kind of reset it to where it was. X36. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this, and then I want it to forever move in this direction. However, if it ever touches the edge, I want it to bounce off the edge. I'll actually demonstrate what happens if we don't add this extra function. I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this code for the other 3 points. And then what I want to do for my paintbrush is I want to go ahead and go to when clicked. Keep in mind, pen can save. The pen can save if you start and then stop. The project can start right after. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase all to get that cleared up. I'm going to go ahead and set the, I'm not going to mess the thing here. I'm just going to go ahead and set the pen down. We'll add more stuff here soon, but I'll just go ahead and go forever. Then I want it to go to these 3 positions, so point A, point B, and point C. So just like this. And then every time it does that, I want it to change the pen color a little bit. I'll do like 1 since 10 is a little bit drastic, and I just want to see what happens if we do this. So we get an interesting animation here already, and let me walk you through this. The first thing I want you to notice is that there's a triangle, and it's always keeping a triangle intact somewhere. If you pay close attention, there's always a triangle which is where it's moving. So how is it doing this? Well, if we take a look at our and already we're making some really complex animations here. It's pretty cool. So with very little actual prior graphic design at all. We're just, in fact, we didn't even draw anything. The computer's drawing it all for us. It's very cool. Um, so what this is, these points are, we don't really define where they start in terms of position, but we do note them to go ahead and turn in a random direction and then just go ahead and keep moving. Whenever they hit an edge, they'll bounce in an opposite direction, and then it'll happen again and eventually bounce again and so on. Same thing for all three of these points. We'll keep this triangle intact between these 3 points that it uses as the cursor, and it kind of prints this triangle as it moves and these points stretch and expand and contract and whatnot. So you can actually kind of see that visualized through the animation. But I want to make a few edits here. I want to go ahead and set the pen size to 0, by the way, which is possible. Um, it basically makes it the absolute smallest it can. So it's really like 1 pixel wide. So it makes it a little bit thinner, our lines there. And it's just very random. It's very cool. And actually, if we go ahead and set our pen transparency a little bit lower as well, I like to say 50. You can get some, we could get it to kind of like blend in with the background a little bit better. You can always mess this, these parameters if you'd like, saturation, brightness, transparency, and color. And I also want to make the color change a little bit less drastic, just a little bit less in your face. 0.1 looks good. Let's see, this looks very nice. Very nice gradual changing colors. It keeps overlapping. I really like that. So, very cool. So there's actually a lot we can do with this. We can make it slowly get dimmer and then like reset or things like that. There's all sorts of things we can do. Actually, how about we try something like this? Just real quick. Forever. Let's actually set the brightness to 100, which I verified that is the, okay, that's the maximum. So we'll just go ahead and say set brightness to 100. And then we'll go ahead and slowly change brightness by -1. And then if well, actually, what we could do is we could also just set pen bright. We can make a variable called pen brightness, which is, I guess, make it a public variable for all sprites. I'm gonna get rid of my variable, no need to have it. What I want to do is I want to track, because we can't really use these parameters as values, such as pen brightness. We can just make a variable that replicates it. So we can go ahead and every time we change our pen brightness, we can just have a variable that correlates with it. So let me explain. Whenever we go change pen brightness by 1, or sorry, by -1, we're also changing the variable. And so what this does is, if we want to check for pen brightness, we can just use the variable, because we can't actually use a value that works with the pen library directly. So if we go ahead and go, let's say our OR operator, and then we'll go, it's equal to 0 or less than 0. And sometimes there can be bugs that can slow down or lag up, and it'll be less than 0 for whatever reason. Let's just say pen brightness, pen brightness. Okay, so we'll just plug these in. So now we actually have something we can plug in. And then if it ever gets to 0 or below 0 for some reason, the brightness, and we'll just go ahead and erase and then set it back to 100. Like so. So let's just see what this does. In fact, I'm actually showing the variable right here so you can see. Okay, well, it looks like given whenever it's 100, and it's a little bit weird. What if we had like an interval here maybe? Of course, it's a little bit extreme of an interval right here. But oh, I bet it's an issue with this operator. I bet this was ordered incorrectly. Let's actually take out this wait function. Let's just see what this does. So it just slowly gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until it just kind of restarts, which is actually very cool. Notice how it actually only gets dimmer where the cursor is, which makes for a really nice effect. I quite like that actually. Alright, there's a lot we can do. It's kind of just however you want to expand to it. We can actually have sliders that change certain things such as brightness and transparency and make a full-on interactive render machine where there's certain variables can be changed, but really this is just something to where viewers can just watch a nice little project unfold, if you will. I think that we can make a little bit of an interval without hurt, just so it's not as rapid, just to make it flow a little better. We just go, let's say wait 0.01 seconds, even that could probably do a little something. Notice how it's taking less time to, or it's taking more time, sorry, to take over, and we can make this 0.05 or whatever we want, really. It's really up to you however you want to do this. But there's just a lot of cool things you can do, and it's very nice little, polygon generator, I guess. And I just wanted to do this to demonstrate some of the powerful things you can do with pins, so you can kind of see um, where we can take this even further in the future lectures, especially with 3D animation, 3D games, like making first-person games, introducing the Z-axis, which we haven't really talked about yet. I think I mentioned it, but we'll get into that here shortly. And that'll be interesting to see how the Z-axis works. It's basically how you can turn 2D projects into 3D projects, and you can make some really, really cool looking things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and save this. This will be in the studio, of course. All the other projects, just gonna write up my instructions, notes, and credits, things like that. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say instructions. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh, and then notes and credits. I'll just go ahead and say developed my course tutorial. And today's date is the 4th November 2019, so I'll just go ahead and say that. Alright, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and actually hide my variable here real quick. Whenever we start the project, just so that that's no longer there, in the way. Alright, save, boom. Should be good to go. I'll just run this one more time. It clears everything. It uses the 3 points to map out a cursor. It follows the cursor. Whenever one of the points hits the edge, it bounces off. And every couple seconds, it'll just go ahead and actually reset, because the brightness is always decreasing. And once the brightness decreases to a certain threshold, it'll just go ahead and reset, so the screen doesn't get all cluttered and all rainbow and all that. Very cool. And actually, you might be wondering why this one's running a little bit short. There's one more concept that's actually pretty crucial that I'm actually wanting to talk about. And rather than dedicating a whole lecture to it, I just rather dedicate part of a lecture to it, and it's called turbo mode. I think I've referenced it before, but I haven't really used it. Basically, that's what happens whenever we shift-click this green flag. What I mean by that is holding the left shift key on your keyboard and then left-clicking. You should see, you should see turbo mode show up. I apologize for that. All those rainbows going everywhere. But, anyways, turbo mode basically, what it does is it actually makes the project a lot faster. I think it's around 100 times faster, but I would verify that on the Scratch Wiki. Basically, it makes it to where if you're having really heavy game engines that are loading or things like that, and they're taking a long time, or if you're just rendering things and they're taking a long time, say they have a long interval between picking new positions for these points, I might want to run turbo mode. I'll render it a lot faster. Of course, it's a little bit too fast. This is already at a good speed to begin with. This is really only to be used if your project's going really slow. There's even a way you can detect this, but that's a little bit advanced, and like detect whether the user is using turbo mode or important, which is scarcely important, but I'll go over that at some point too. So I'm just going to go ahead and shift click again to toggle it back. So I'm just turning it off, and we're all back to normal. And again, shift click again, and then actually it'll keep rendering back to normal. And you can actually, it won't stop or start the project. It'll just go ahead and, well, I mean, it'll start the project. It's not already started, but if the project's already running, you can still shift click and it'll keep running. It'll just run faster. And you can go ahead and disable it while the project's still running, just like this. Project never stopped running whenever I did that. It just, changed speeds, if you will. So that's just a cool thing there. And pretty much all I had planned for this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you guys in some of the advanced projects. And that's all I have. So see you guys there.